He's worthy of all our praise. I thank God for allowing us a safe passage to come to his house to learn more of him as we continue to do his will. We're going to go ahead and dive into the lesson. We're talking about number 11, question number 11, I believe, right? But the topic of our lesson for that question is strength in the struggle, how remembering fuels victory in spiritual warfare. We still have our worksheets with us. How remembering fuels victory in spiritual warfare. When we started the lesson, we started with remembering Rebuke's fear. We got be not ye afraid of them was our focal verse in Nehemiah chapter number 4, right? Nehemiah chapter number 4, verse number 14. That's right. I need somebody to read that aloud for us so the people online and on the conference call can hear us. I need somebody to read Nehemiah chapter 4, verse number 14. And we'll go from there. What do we have? Different versions. We need a King James version and a different translation. I need two readings today.
I have ESV.
Okay, we can have the ESV and
I have the NIV.
okay, let's have those two today. ESV and NIV.
And I looked and arose and said to the nobles and to the officials and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes.
And the NIV says, after I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives, your homes.
One thing that doesn't change in any translation that we look at today, King James, NIV, ESV, TPT, is one word. Sister Rose, did you see remembering in your text?
Yeah. Remember the Lord.
Okay, Sister Scott, did you see remembering in your text?
Yes.
And I believe if we polled the room, anybody got any different text versions in the text? Do anybody else see the word remembering in the text?
The voice also says remember.
So what I'm trying to let us understand is when we look at what we're faced with today, we look at the struggle, the strength in the struggle, and the key word is how remembering fuels victory in spiritual warfare. We dealt with that last week. We dealt with remembering revives your purpose, right? We dealt with that for a little while. It says, and fight. Nehemiah reminded the people that they had something worth fighting for and a reason to keep going. Remembering what God has called you to do strengthens your resolve to do it. And we had those supporting scriptures. Y'all remember those supporting scriptures, right? Ephesians chapter number 6, 10 and 11. Be strong in the Lord. Put on the whole armor of God, right? Philippians 3 and 14. I press towards, right? The mark, the high calling. So today we understand remembering revives your purpose. And we saw that. We walked through that for a good deal of time on last week. We saw a lot of helpful hints that helped us along this week here in looking at that text. So today we're moving from that one and we're going into the next point. The takeaway that we got from last week is when your why is clear, right? When your why is clear, I told y'all to write that down. When your why is clear, what happens? Your will gets stronger. When you know why you serve God, when you know why you worship God, when you know why you go the extra mile of the way doing God's will, right? your will gets stronger through God. So today we're focusing on your sheets. You should have remembering restores focus on what matters what. Remembering restores focus on what matters most. What matters most. The Bible says, fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters. When we look at the text, Nehemiah rallied. Let's listen to what I gotta say. Nehemiah's rally cry wasn't rooted in bricks, wasn't rooted in beams or anything else. His words aimed deeper toward the heart. He didn't just say fight for the wall. He said fight for your people, because this battle was never just about construction. It was about continuation. Y'all see that in the text? It wasn't about the construction. It was about the continuation. It's about making sure that what God started didn't stop with them. Right? Remembering restores focus on what matters most. And if we poll the room, ask any questions about anything that has transpired in your own life as a child of God, right? And you thinking about it, and how did it restore your focus on what mattered most? How what happened in your life, and you coming out of whatever you were in, how did that restore your focus on what mattered the most? Anybody? Somebody? Nobody.
What's your question?
We're talking about the question. Remembering restores focus on what matters most. Restores focus on what matters most. Experiences in life. What kept you grounded and rooted then? And what is pushing you forward to continue to stay grounded and rooted based on previous experiences in your life? How did you restore your fuel to keep on going for Christ?
Our relationship.
Mm-hmm. Relationship.
Because we already know what he has done in the past. And so when we meet challenges of the day, no matter what they are, if we focus on the things that has been already done, then I believe that strengthens us. We always like to go back to James about these divers temptation. We are faithful to exercise. And that when you come out of one, it ain't over.
It ain't over.
Because another one is coming sooner or later. And so I look at it as going back to what we just talked about, remembering
Remember, restores focus on what matters most.
what God has already done.
I see it like this. When we remember who we're fighting for, we stop giving up so easy. Remember who we're fighting for, we stop giving up so easy. The fight wasn't about a place. It was about a people. The opposition didn't just threaten buildings, it threatened bloodlines. Nehemiah reminded them that the work on the wall was bigger than the wall. Their sweat and struggle had generational implications. That's why remembering really matters. Y'all, if we really look at what's going on in today's society, now we might have to deal with that today. When we look at the political realm, we look at all of these things that's going on outside of the church. How can our remembering how God brought us from back then to now, how can it restore our focus on what really matters right now the most? What matters now? What matters to any of us the most right now? Be honest. What matters to y'all? What matters to y'all?
Living right and trying to see Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right now,
Being
we're
safe in our
family.
families.
state of the government.
Don't worry about Social Security.
I mean, we got to deal with real problems.
That's
Family.
That's real life.
Being closer to God, survival of the fittest. You know, there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration even right now when we're talking about how can we get restored through remembering. When we talked about Nehemiah's position on the wall, how Nehemiah had to pray because of the oppositions that was around him. Now Nehemiah is saying that in this state, when we're looking at what we're faced with on today, we see that remembering restores focus. We got to remember that remembering restores focus on what matters the most. I'm going to keep pushing that. Tells us to fight for your brother, your sons, and your daughters. In the people of Israel's eyes, the focal point to them that Nehemiah brought to their attention was, listen, this is what I need you to know. Don't just stand up here and fight. You're not fighting for anything. You're just not standing up here fighting because I'm telling you to fight. He was pointing it in what he said fight for. What did he say in verse number 14? Y'all tell me that one more time. What did it say? Tell me again, what did it say?
Don't be afraid.
Huh?
Don't be afraid. Remember the Lord. He is great and awesome. And fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. So the main thing I got is, don't be afraid, because God is still on the throne.
He's still on the throne. He's still in charge. And we should not fear anything because what God has in store for us, it is for us if we stay in his will, right? I'm not talking about people that steps out of God's will and stay out of God's will. I'm talking about the people that are in God's will. You're doing God's will. And I believe, I'm a firm believer, if you're doing God's will, things will happen. Because the Bible tells us things will happen. Because it says in this life, it'll rain on the just as well as the unjust. Right? So we're walking around this world with just people and unjust people. And the same rain that falls hits who? Both of us the same way. But when we trust that God will cover us with the spiritual umbrella, that even though we go through what Deacon Bullock said, diverse temptations, it will not consume us because we remember that God brought us out of it before. And if God brings us out of it before, what'll happen now? That's why I know that if I remember what God did in the past, it will restore fuel in me to stay focused on what matters right now in our life. We see a lot of things going on in our community, in life in general. We saw at the church, I don't know if y'all seen it, they had Easter egg hunt last week, and the deacon got shot. Did he die, Deacon Booth? He was shot and killed, at the church doing Easter egg hunt.
Where's that location?
I was in Mississippi. But it was at the church house.
It was at the church. Our world is in a frantic, chaotic, confused state. And to be honest and perfectly clear with y'all, the church is silent. The church is very silent on things that's happening in the world. And I want to know if God made ways for our forefathers and foremothers back then, the same qualities, the same God that they trusted in, that brought them when they didn't have food on the table and they were dealing with burning crosses in their front yards, if they overcame those things, what is the issue with the church today? Why are we silent when we should be vocal in places that we should be vocal in? Why are we scared? Are we scared, or we just don't want to deal with it?
What do you think?
Huh?
Go out of the world.
What do you think?
I think
Why?
why? I think for one, we don't want to lose being comfortable. The church is comfortable. We can come, we can praise, we can go home, and we can thank God for letting us come home safe. But the fight isn't just in the church. The fight is bigger than being inside the church. We have to go outside the church. And we have to go in uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable places, right? And speak the word of God. If we know God is a bona fide deliverer, why don't we trust him in it? Oh, we'll trust him. Calamity hit our homes. How many bona fide saints really trust him when calamity hits your home? I mean, really trust him. Now, Lord, I'm crying out to you. I'm gonna do everything. What, Lord, give me the direction right now. I promise you, I'm gonna follow it to the T. Yes, ma'am.
You know, related to what you asked us earlier about the political climate and everything, what I found personally is that what's happening right now is so beyond our own ability to understand. I mean, we see cruelty, we see our Constitution being thrown out the window, we see that doing that being supported by the highest law of the land. So it's like, where do you go?
Yeah.
You know, I just often say to myself, I talk out loud about myself, I say, God, how can one person who I see as evil and cruel upset the world order like this? So I just say, I can't understand it. Lord, I'm gonna have to rely on you. I'm gonna have to rely on the fact that you say the government is upon your shoulders. And I just have to keep reminding myself of that, as you say, remember. I have to keep reminding myself, because this is unreal.
It is. And I'm going to tell you this right here. We have individuals in the church that has seen this firsthand. We got an individual in the Bible study class that has seen this firsthand. And those are the experiences that we need to look up to. Sister Rose Mission is right there back in the back there. And ask her who her governor was. Her governor was George Wallace. Lived experience on what actually transpired to hinder the growth of a people. Right? How can what she's lived through, how can remembering that restore her focus and our focus on what matters the most right now? Huh?
It depends on how strong your belief is.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me say it again, sister.
I said, God do not lie, because before he died,
What did he have to do?
he repented and begged every black person in Alabama fight sorry for what he had caused them. This is the truth.
You know, the Bible says,
God still
the Bible tells us this right here. The atheists and everybody that don't believe. He said, at the name of Jesus, every knee shall, I don't care who you are, I don't care what belief system you have, at the end of the day, when the road meets the road, at the every knee shall, and every word in this Bible is true. Because he said, before one jot or tittle of my word shall pass, he said, heaven and earth will pass away. So Scott, what you was going to say? And then you, Sister Rose.
No,
No, not you, the one in front of you.
we got 3 rows in here.
Yeah, I know. One to my right, two on the Sister.
But it just seems that it's easier to break stuff than it is to fix it. You know, and that's what we know, because it behooves me to know. You know, without how come everybody? It just seems to me that this man is just tearing up this country, tearing it up, and people seem to be helpless. Our legislators, Our judicial system seems to be helpless, you know, and how can that be, you know?
Sister Scott, our leaders prior to now, when they saw wrong going on, I'm no the leaders, our leaders back in the day, Martin Luther King, all of those, Medgar Evers, we see what they did. When injustices was running rampant, they stood up against injustice, right? They went to jail, they were killed, it was all this stuff. Houses was burned. They attacked everybody that they were close to. Don't y'all see that happening? We got Jasmine Crockett under investigation. Why? Because she was doing what? Standing strong, right? What was she doing? She's a very highly educated black young lady. She can do two things to you. She can talk to you very articulate, or she can break you all the way down the way she knows how to break you down. In both ways, but never loses her identity and who she is. So this is what I mean. When we know we have the ability to stand firm, when we know we have the ability to stand up and stand on the word of God, don't we say sometimes on Christ what? All of us know it's on Christ, the solid rock, I said, and all other grounds do what? Then we say, I dare not trust the sweetest frame.
Well, holy name.
On what? There it is again. On what? On
Jesus' name.
you see how remembering restores. Focus on what matters the most. We're dealing with a political system that's off kilter, that's really out of control. Because if you go at them, what's gonna happen? They're coming at you. I'm trying to figure out. I've never seen this in a day of my life. Somebody go at you. They say this and they say this, and just because you don't like it, you're gonna do what you want to do. Go ahead, Sister Rose.
One of the difficulties is it's like a whack-a-mole.
Mm-hmm.
And you hit at one thing and something else pops up to distract your attention from the main point that you were trying to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And this foolishness of one thing after another being stirred up so that even though this group was not upset with the previous issue,
Mm-hmm.
the next group that gets attacked is upset about this issue and the previous one. And the combination of all the voices is not happening. It's divide by having separate issues that people care about being disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
And like even this last mess with the higher education institutions, Harvard
Mm-hmm.
didn't speak out when the first college or university got attacked. But now they're under attack.
They're under attack.
Very specifically, very individually, and now that they're saying, oh no, you can't do this. Now, and getting the lawful enforcement, the legal arm behind them as much as they can. Even what they're trying to do is trying to undermine that because he's already attacked the lawyers
Mm-hmm.
and has put apparently the fear of God in some way behind their being able to do what they're supposed to do as lawyers.
And that's very critical to what's going on today. See
And
now,
add the judges to that mix too.
yeah. See, what we have to understand is that Nehemiah came back in the third wave, was the first set of slaves that came back, second set, then the third set. Nehemiah was in that group. Now you got to understand that the ones that was in the first and the second wave that came back, they saw the same thing Nehemiah saw, right? They witnessed it, the ruining of the temples and all that kind of stuff. But somebody had to stand up. It took the third wave for somebody to really take a stand and see that enough is enough. We peep out the window sheets and we see calamity all around us. But it ain't close enough yet, so it ain't gonna bother me. But we walk and we see the ruins. We see what God has allowed to happen. And who's gonna be that voice? Who's gonna be the one standing making that clarion call? For our children, we have to do something. I'm not gonna get it. Listen, what we have to do as a church, we cannot fold under pressure, Sister Bullock. We have to stand firm. We got to stand up for Christ. Even though they snatch our freedom. Martin Luther King from the Birmingham jail wrote a letter, right? He didn't give up because he was locked up. Boy, if they say, oh, you're going to get locked up, you're going to disperse right here. Okay,
They can lock you up in another country.
Yeah, they want to send everybody to El Salvador now. Go ahead, Sister Bullock, and then you, Sister Scott.
Well, Martin, just listening at us and the whole deal, to me, you're really focusing in on the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do this last night. I started off too late.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was reading the topics, all of a sudden, remember. But the only thing in my head kept going was forget those. And I got stuck. Okay. Then I had to, I checked out, look, what do we remember? What do we forget? You know, all the Bible say forget. And here we talk about remember.
Mm-hmm.
To me, we're focused in on the wrong thing. And 2025, we as Christians should be stronger than we are.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and recognize what's happening. None of the stuff that we're focusing in on can we really do anything about. What it should do for us is draw the church and make the church stronger. Even Nehemiah, you just said he was in the third wave. All other people saw what was going on. But Nehemiah's mind was focused on God.
Yeah.
And to me, we as, and especially our people, then I remembered our foreparents. That's kind of what I rely on.
Mm-hmm.
God took them through. God protected them. Everything we are today is because of what they poured into us.
And Sister Bullock, before you go any further, let us stop right there.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go forward. And we deal with the forget. And what Paul was talking about in the forget, right? We can't get, because we can get messed up. Forget the harsh treatment that they did. No, Paul is saying to you individually. He's saying to you individually. You individually. Paul is saying to all of us, let go of past hindrances.
Right.
Paul is saying to us right now, past failures, past sins, and past sufferings. He said that you endure. You know what I'm saying? Forget those things, because those things will keep you in a place of being locked up, and you can't get no further because you won't forget that God has already forgiven you. God has forgiven you of those things that you've done in the past. Forgetting those things which are behind. The things that stop me from walking closer with you. The things that stop me from loving you even harder. The things that prohibited me from coming to church on Sunday because I was mad at Deacon Baker. I'm just using you as an example. You know what I'm saying? that's the thing that
Yeah.
God is saying to us today. You know what I'm saying? He's not saying, no, don't forget. Because if we forget what they did in the past, our history will stay the same.
Exactly.
Don't forget that stuff. Don't forget from where you came from. You know what I'm saying? How you had to come up on the rough side of the mountain, and right now you're still doing your very best. You know, to make it in. Don't get it. Paul is saying, don't get it twisted. I don't want you to forget the struggle.
Yes.
Okay, let me tie this in. Let me get this right here. And then, go ahead, Sister Bullock. Then I'm gonna go something. Go ahead. Go
The
ahead.
only thing I was gonna add to that is, with us growing stronger, we as a church have to know that this is not our fight.
It belongs to God. God is preparing us to be vigilant, to be prepared.
We're in another realm,
Yeah, we have to be prepared spiritually.
spiritual.
We have to make sure that we have on that Ephesians 6, the entire armor, the whole armor of God, that we may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And after all you've done, still wait. So Scott, go ahead.
I'll just say both of y'all was right, because, absolutely, I just love that explanation. But I was thinking, you know, the Jim Crow system is an old system that existed before, and it was just laying dormant on the
those steps.
Yeah, just laying dormant. And I just believe that you gonna always have people that hate, you always have people.
Oh yeah, for no reason. No
And
reason.
you have a
Entitled.
political system, I call them the bubble system, the old boy system, white students, white men who wants to be in control, who have been in control a long time and don't want to give it up. But now they have someone willing to step up and say what they've been feeling all the time and wanting to do. Somebody called him the other day, and I never heard a useful idiot because of his ego.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
his
Oh yeah.
personality.
You can see
He's
that.
willing to say out loud
What
what
nobody
that
else
system
was
has been laying dormant.
dormant and nobody would
And
stand up.
nobody else had the courage to come forward full force like he's coming now.
Mhm.
That's how I see it.
And-
I really did. It's just a system that's been laying dormant, and he's useful and crazy, you know.
He's smart enough, so to speak.
Genius idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you're right.
And they're stroking the sick personality who thinks he's in charge, when he's being used to bring back a system
That
that
oppressed so many.
won't get back, and they never won't get some people, but it's affecting so many other people.
And that's the thing. And I tell people that all the time, so Scott.
They didn't
I
tell
say
them
to them, I say to them,
nobody.
yeah, I say, listen, they voted that way because he wasn't scared to say what everybody else would say. He wasn't scared to say it. You know, they knew what they
And
wanted.
they love
If you be honest, you know, it was a lot of stuff that was being said, and a lot of us was like, yeah, undercover. But you know, that's neither here nor there. But we have to make sure.
And Nehemiah brought people together.
Nehemiah brought, it was three ways. The third way, somebody had to say something and see something, baby. We need to do something. Nah, sit your behind down. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Oh, I wish I knew that story offhand. The prophet, Jesus told the prophet, don't go see nobody, but the old prophet told him, the angel, I got to bring that to you. But anyway, listen. Nehemiah was letting everybody know that the fight wasn't about a place. It was about the people of God, right? The people of God. The opposition didn't just threaten buildings, it threatened bloodlines. Nehemiah reminded them that the work on the wall was bigger than the wall. Their sweat and struggle had generational implications. That's why remembering matters. Because nobody that has or have had a child, I'll be honest, nobody want their child to struggle like you struggle. Be honest. Unless you're that parent, no, you're gonna struggle like that. You know, nobody wants their child or children to struggle or see the struggles that they went through. Not if you can help it. Because, listen, I'm telling you about this lived experience, son. I'm telling you about what I know. I'm showing you what I've seen in life. Watch this. Anybody ever gave their children some advice like that? Watch out for this. Watch out for that. I'm not telling you to have fun, but make sure you got your eye and your head on the swivel. Because in having fun, you're going to always have somebody looking around, seeing what kind of disruption they can bring to you. Ain't nobody ever had that conversation there, children. Be honest. If not your children, the ones that you're close to.
Brother Mark,
Yes, ma'am.
kind of made me feel embarrassed. About this, children. My son just told me the other day that I needed to lift that curse off of him. And I told him, I hope he have one just like
But the thing about it, Sister Bullock, parents gonna speak the truth when they dealing with something. You know, because I'm like, boy, look at here. Look at here. Boy, look at here. But when we're dealing, when we're looking at it from a standpoint, we want, now, if you be honest, don't nobody want their child, their children, or anybody they're associated with in that regard to go through any struggles or any hardship. We want you to grow up. We want you to see that if you don't position yourself and do these things the right way, you will struggle. But I'm placing you in a position for successful living. And in this position for successful living, you will struggle. But the struggle won't be brought about because you're not trying. The struggle will be brought about because you know that in order to be elevated, you got to go through the fire. In order for you to get, Daddy can lead you right there, but in order for you to get there, you got to keep on climbing.
So says God.
Exactly. So in this, what we see that when we remember stuff that we done struggled through, that brings a refocused mindset when we look at the ones we love, right? Yes, ma'am.
The thing that's going through my head with all these conversations is what struck me about three Bible studies ago, that your purpose helps you maintain the focus in conflict.
Oh, yeah.
And it ties in with what Rose was saying with the whack-a-mole, because there's a lot of different purposes out there.
Yeah.
Politically, there's a lot of different purposes, a lot of different. The church needs to look at what its purpose is, but they're not necessarily doing that. So that when we look at the civil rights movement, we had a united purpose.
And we did it together.
We did it together. We were
One
working
voice.
together through that.
Solidarity.
There is no one voice out there anymore.
And that's the issue. That's why we couldn't get, okay, yeah, you're right. You're so right.
Yeah.
Listen.
All of the disruption that has gone through all of the denominations over the last decade. And the denominations have split and split
And that's the point. Denomination.
and fighting within their denomination.
Now,
So that they can't even come together about what their individual church
exactly.
should be doing.
So, sister Alpha, let me ask this question. Just say, just put it in, just for saying this, the Democratic Party said that President Joe Biden wasn't a good fit for a second term, right? So they came up with it. Let's remove him right now. We're in the middle, going towards the end of an election. And right now you're saying, let's switch it up. Now y'all be honest, what kind of sense does that make? We got him, let him roll with it. Then when he get elected, let's make the move big. But it was bigger than that. We have to look at it. It was really bigger than that. It was stuff that was said across the wall. Y'all, it was way bigger than that. We was way bigger than that. So let's stay focused. I get on the political stuff, but I'm going to do that right now. Yes, ma'am. Sister Rose.
Talk about George Wallace couldn't do but 2 terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why. What happened?
He made his wife run.
Mm-hmm.
She was on her deathbed.
And what happened?
She lived 3 months,
And he finished the term.
and he did her term.
See, and we find ways to manipulate a system to put people in place that not we want, but who they think is a good fit to keep people oppressed
Her side of it.
and down. Yes, sir.
Yes.
The
Hold up, y'all.
the thing that is missing in our conversation at this moment is the mere fact that they use religion to do exactly what they want to do.
They did.
And the mere fact that when you put somebody like Franklin Graham on television,
Mm-hmm.
who Franklin Graham look at a black person, they don't see people.
Mm-hmm.
But the mere fact that, you know, they can do that, and then when Trump tells you one thing over here, and we look at that, we look at the stock market, but bottom line, he's not manipulating the stock market, he's manipulating something else over here. That's part
That's why
that we don't even see. You know, but the thing is, when one of the very first things he did was he cut U.S. aid. U.S. aid was feeding people all over the world that needed it, which was being run by the Christian group. Can't think of what to call it now. But anyway, by cutting that, he really showed religion where he stood. But see, most people miss that.
They missed them all.
Yeah. The sad thing is, when we talk about the black church, you know, the black church is where we've really gotten most of our leaders from.
All of our leaders.
And
When we were unified.
right. But the mere fact that now we as families, we're not raising our children are raising us. Therefore, we've lost so much. We've lost so much. The question is, where do we get Jeremiah from? Our Jeremiah.
And Brother Brandon, let me tell you this. If you really look at it, do research, we've lost 3 generations.
Mm-hmm.
3 generations.
Yeah, because
I mean, be honest. You look at it, 3 generations. You have remnants, you have some coming out doing this and doing that, but it should be way more. With the pool of people that has came before us. Now we have no one that don't want to emulate or be like those individuals, but they want to be like Drake and them. You know, they still
Power of distraction,
the
fraction, and breaking off, and having all these different this, that. It's a
oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
thing.
I tell people this right here. When I hear a child crying in the church, they want to get, no, don't give them no phone. Let them cry. Don't give them no iPad. Let them cry. I'm going to give them to them so they can be quiet. I'm going to put them. People learn how to go to sleep in church because we teach them to go to sleep in church. Lay here, baby. You know what I'm saying? The preacher preaching, be quiet. You know, don't make noise. You know what I'm saying? Yes, ma'am.
What came to my mind a long time ago was, and I know a lot of negative things are happening in this world today, but then we have to think too, you know, sometimes God allows, America has strayed from God, way from God.
Yes.
Sometimes God will allow things to bring us closer to him, because he did that even with the Israelites. You know, he let them go into slavery, he let them have the worst of times because they strayed from him.
Mhm.
And he wants to let them know that he was still God. And I think a lot of the times in today's society, I think that's a part of what's happening. He is allowing things to happen to make us aware that he is God and to bring us back to him.
But Sister Scott, what did the psalmist write? He said, as the deer panted by the river.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said, how can we sing?
Not so after thee.
How can we sing a song in a foreign land? And right now, our land looks foreign to us
It does, it is.
because we refuse to stand up. Let me tell you, it says that's why remembering matters. If y'all listen to it, at the beginning of the Bible study, they were like real crazy. What are you talking about? Remember, restores, focus on what really matters the most. But if y'all listen to everything that y'all said on today, y'all thinking about the remembering aspect. That's why I started the Bible study off with. And then y'all bring up all these lived experiences that shows us if we get back to doing this, the church will be this. All leaders came out, the church, the black church, the leaders that we knew what would do what needed to be done, not just for their glory, for them to get the glorification of it, but make sure that our homes and communities and the people around us were taken care of, right? Joshua chapter 4. Let's get a verse in there. Joshua chapter 4. Somebody turn to Joshua chapter 4. Chapter 4, go to 6 and 7 for me right quick. Joshua chapter 4, verse number 6 and verse number 7. 4, 6, and 7. Somebody read that for me. If you're loud, yelling at somebody.
That this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what mean ye by these stones? Then ye shall answer them, that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be for a memorial to the children of Israel forever.
When the Israelites crossed the Jordan, they were told to gather stones. Gather stones. Not because they were pretty, but because they were proof, right? Proof of God's power, proof that he brings us through, proof that future generations could point and say, that stone means survival. That stone means grace. That stone means God made a way. Now, the question is, if we don't have no stones placed in our homes, right? I know I talk different about Stone Sunday, but this is different.
Oh, yes.
Listen. If we don't have no stones at our house to point at, right? What happened? Joshua chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. I want y'all to read one more time for clarity for me. Somebody read it one more. Joshua chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. One more time for me. Read it for me one more time.
We will use these stones to build a memorial. This is another version.
Uh-huh.
In the future, your children will ask you, what do these stones mean? Then you can tell them, they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the Ark of the Lord's Covenant went across.
A miracle happened. Go ahead, Sister Scott.
These stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. Go on.
Do y'all see the importance? Y'all see the importance of having something to teach the ones that's behind us? Because if they don't know where we come from, how they gonna know where they going in the skin that they're in? They're gonna accept whoever comes before them and they're gonna say, yeah, that's my friend. And the friend has a hidden agenda out for them because we have not instilled in them the principles that God has given us to give to them.
And then when you have your government trying to throw the stones,
Yeah.
you had really
They don't.
because that's what's happening.
That's what happened.
Our whole history is being
You see that it's being eradicated.
Yeah.
Train up a child. Train up a child. Train up a child. Train up a child in the way they should go. Right? Train them up the right way. Show them who Jesus really is. let them know how the struggle was true and it's not a figment of our imagination. That this did happen to us. And if we're not smart enough to learn our history, we end up repeating it.
You know what, Pastor? Even though they're trying to wipe our history away, the children today is seeing that.
They see it.
They're seeing it, so they're really creating another part of history.
They are. Because you have some that's standing up, learning more. And you see that. We went down to the museum down there on Main Street. People got up in there, they were in there, and they started bringing up stuff that happened in the past. Pictures that weren't in there. They said, oh, this such and such cousin. They know from this thing, they did this and this and this. They got the history in their heads, but they're not given the history. History that's covered up, tucked away to try to preserve it. It's not a helpful history to nobody. We have to share the history that brought us through. They can understand. We ain't doing, I love ain't, so don't worry about it. We ain't doing that no more. We refuse to allow this to happen to us because we have things in place that will prohibit them from allowing us or making us do X, Y, and Z. We have to make sure that we're building up that generation. We can't bring them in and look at them because the eyelashes are long and their pants are sagging and their shirts and skirts are too high. Get them in here. Get them in here. And when they come in, don't worry about what they got on. If they first visit, second visit, don't worry about what they got on. Because you know we're trying to attract their minds. To show them, because if we can teach them how God loves you and that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and we can put in God's power and however we need to go about doing it inside of them, God will do the changing. Let us show them who He is and how He delivered us. We got testimonies in here. All of us ain't always been covered up our whole life. Don't play the angel. Everybody in here, you done some stuff. You done had them on too tight. Mama say, go do it again. You done had the shirt up. You showing it when you was able to show your six pack. You done had it. No, you can't do that in here. There's girls in here. Now, don't act like y'all always know out. You know, I've always covered up. I've always done this. I've always. You know, oh, I would never, God forbid. So we have to be honest with ourselves. If we're gonna attract the individuals that's out there now, if we're gonna attract them and show them who Jesus really is. What did Jesus tell the lady at the well? I know all about you, but He let her talk first. She spoke her mind first. Then Jesus said, I know all about you. And the man you with ain't even yours. But go. Tell him who you done saw. Jesus did not berate her or ridicule her. Jesus showed her. I said, I sent everybody away because I knew I was going to have an encounter with you, because if I would have had the group with us, they would say, nah, you can't talk to her. You know? But know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna meet you right where you are. And sometimes, we got to meet them right where they are. We don't have to jump on them and say, you know, Jesus wouldn't have you doing that. No, let them say something to you. And then you incorporate what you have to incorporate in their lives. And they will see somebody that's really passionate about their self and their well-being. In order to grow, we have to show them how to grow. But when we are stuck on, don't y'all say that. And we allow tradition to dictate what we do. We've lost already 3. We on the verge of losing 4 generations. Somebody had their hand up. I don't know. I got them. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What do we think that what is the difference between us now and our foreparents?
Us now, I'm gonna tell you. I'm glad you asked that. I'm gonna tell you. Us now. See, mama, I got to come over this way. Right before he. Let me tell you this. Mama, if you did it then, mama catching you right here. Now listen to me. I bet, and everybody, all the friends looking at him right there. Look at that mama, you like, and she's getting you right there, telling you what you need to do, how you need to do it, and how you need to be a lady and not walking around here frolicking and all this other kind of stuff. And when I get home, I'm not gonna beat you. I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna talk to you. Now you know what you did. Have to say don't ditch. So now, when we see that, y'all know now when we see that, I like what you got. Where you got that from? She? You got that from She? And you 55, she 18. And you ask her where she got her outfit from. Because you want the same one.
That's the difference.
And they walk around like they twins at the club.
The housewives of
It's no home training where it was back then. And is it their fault? It's not their fault. Y'all got to see the generations that we lost. We've lost generations because we were so traditional. When they step up in the church, you know, we don't have your kind in here. Wow. And we wonder why people run down that church on 2-9 Road. And it's full every Sunday.
Every
How are you doing? Y'all follow what I'm saying? It's because we traditional up in here.
But
We
I'm going
refuse.
even further back than that. All the way back, our foreparents just came out of slavery.
Mhm.
And the worship, their worship.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here thinking, maybe because I grew up Methodist all my life, I don't remember hearing about the problems.
Mhm.
But it was something about their worship.
And you learn the problems as you got older. They didn't come and had that conversation with you like that. But when you got a little older in church, you say, oh, that's why mama was praying
You
like
understood,
that.
right?
Because this situation like this here,
Right.
okay. But you got to have that thinking capacity.
Yeah.
We're not showing them that.
That.
We're not showing them that right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that's the big difference. That's the big difference in what's going on now. We mama didn't have to, I never knew, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I never knew the problems that was in my home church till I got older.
Right.
That's when I said, are you serious? You know what I'm saying? That happened for real? They knew how to do it then. Mom and dad would bring you home and they'd have a discussion about this. We were never in that business like that.
That's right.
But we understood what respect meant.
Right.
Right now, if a child does something in school, cuss the teacher out, the parent come up there and cuss the teacher out too. I wasn't raised like that. My children did something bad in school, and I didn't agree with the teacher. Me and my son now, I'm talking to the teacher. I say, thank you. I say, yeah, can you excuse him so he can go back to class? And let him go back to class. Not me and the teacher got to talk, right? Because there was some stuff in that conversation that I could have pulled out right there. And I'm not doing that because I don't want my son to think, yeah, daddy came up here and got on you. So he have that type of, bravado in front of the teacher. Now, we're not going to do that. You still don't have that same respect for the teacher because she's going to be your teacher. But I'm going to make sure things are done the right way. But give me that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, but you was the daddy that went. There were daddies that don't go.
Even now.
That's a major problem.
Even now.
Yeah.
But even when the ones that don't go, Brother Brandon, we have to be the parents, the surrogate parents, that go and speak to them children. It's rough out here, y'all.
It's rough, real, because I remember going to school with my children,
Mm-hmm.
and they beat me up when they became adults. You didn't have to come to school with us. And I took off a week, a month starting in June to the end of the year. And one day I go spend a day with each one of them. The bottom line is, I saw so much junk going on in school. The racism is so, I mean, but you can't do anything about it, because if you do, then you hurting your child, because they teach you know exactly who you are. And then when you do 12 years twice, you tired. You know, I can't fight this battle. You know, but it's a battle that needs to be fought, because all of us pay taxes for our school. And we all need to get together
Gotta
and
get
fight.
involved. Gotta get
Yeah.
involved.
There's the thing, when you go way back, slavery, we lost the spirit. It's the spirit, and the church doesn't know that it's in spiritual trouble.
You're right.
The purpose of the church was a spiritual warfare. There's evil that exists, and then God exists. It's the spirit. Those people, the spirit, and it came from a longing to go home. Just a better place to live. So if you talk about slavery, they said, let me ride. They believe an angel will come down in the chariot, the old song, and take me home. There's gotta be a better place.
They
than
had,
this place.
it's like what you said earlier, Sister Scott. It's like what you said earlier, Sister Marie, when you said that faith and that belief is not as strong as it was back
We
then.
gotta believe we are. who
We
God
got to
is.
have that, and we saw that. If you be honest with yourself, you saw that in your parents. If you was that one going to church, like, you saw that, they believed. I was like, man, you let me get to eat. And Mama talking about God gonna provide. I was like, how that's gonna happen? Listen. We've oversmart the time because of y'all. Listen, y'all gonna have to do better. Y'all gonna have to do better. It's late. Wait, when y'all.
They used to have deacons that sat on one side, and the old lady sat on another side of the church. And they would come and say amen and start with those hymns.
Amen.
You don't hear that no more.
You're right.
Amen, bro.
You don't hear it no more. I know I would hear a lady say, sure, tell God thank you. That was her favorite word. Every Sunday she would yell it out. But we don't have that kind of church. We don't have that.
Y'all, we entertain questions next week. We're not gonna do any comments, any questions, any concerns.
And the concern is, yes, we can share and fellowship and talk about our concerns, but an opportunity to strategize. And the real reality of what this mess is we're having to deal with.
And it's not like we're finna go to sleep and wake up and it's gone.
Right, I get emails constantly saying, vote on this, vote on that, express your opinion, et cetera, and then the main point of it is when you click on it, they want you to send some money to something. And I don't even quite know who the organizations are. They say the right, one or two right words in the label.
They catch you.
But they're not something that I'm familiar with. So I shy away from just responding, no matter how good the topic sounds. But then I want people that I know who are in strategic spots to be able to address those things. Because our legislative people seem to be quiet. And they're in
And we the one that put them in place.
Are there any organizations
Go ahead,
that
Deacon.
really work doing what needs to be done? We are.
Well, you think
Okay,
they're a human being.
We, as the pastor said, we have, extended our time.
Yeah, we have.
I've, unmuted everyone on the conference call. Does anyone have any questions? Well, it wasn't us because we didn't have no record to your plan, but it's that phone system again. Yeah. Maybe we can